Hey everyone, Bambi Media here. I'm Brianna, and I wanted to give you a little bit of free training, free stats, I guess, this morning. I was having a look at a website, Nielsen.com, and they do a lot of marketing insights for just a whole bunch of different industries. And I like to go there and look at what the podcasting industry is looking like. What are the insights, especially for the US market, because the US market is so much further along than Australia. The US market is like 12 years old or something like that, like it's pretty long. And the Australian market, we're only like 3-4 years in, right? So I like to look at a market that's already established so that I can see what's likely to happen in Australia. This, as you can see here, so Nielsen.com is the website, and it says that according to the latest Nielsen Total Audience Report, US consumers 18 years and older now spend almost 12 hours each day consuming and engaging with media. That's that here. That's huge, which is up almost 1.5 hours from a year ago. And this is from February 2020. So it would be even higher throughout the 2020 year because of COVID. So I found that really quite interesting that there was that much consumption going on. Now, it's not just podcasting, that's for media in general, but it gives you a look at how much time people spend engaging and consuming media. And if you're in an industry like a content person, creating content, like this is the thing, right? You have a captive audience for 12 hours a day. They're not always going to be looking at the things that you're putting out, but obviously if you're in it, right? So I found that interesting. And then I wanted to go in and have a look at what the growth was for the US for their podcasting industry. And then I could see here that they've sorted out heavy listeners versus light listeners. Now, heavy listeners are those that consume podcasts every day. Light listeners are those that consume it, less regularly, and they wanted to look at what it was like for light users and heavy users and that sort of thing. So that this bit here, it's saying the average number of episodes heard per week increased by 10% for heavy listeners. But podcast engagement isn't just growing among heavy users. The total podcast audience is growing at a compound average growth rate of 20%. And that's going to double by the year 2023. That's what they're projecting is going to double. So podcasting is massive. Like it is absolutely massive. And ads are only just getting started from podcasting as well. I'm thinking and assuming that it's going to go the same way as YouTube, frustratingly enough, where there's ads everywhere in YouTube videos now because podcasting is a free medium. But I'm also seeing that I can see a lot more corporates and a lot more people now doing a private podcasting method where they actually pay, like the person that wants to listen to that podcast, they pay for the right to listen to that podcast. That's going to become really valuable if you have a subscription model and offerings that you're wanting to try and sell or that you do sell and you want to offer a private podcast for your members. That can already happen, and I just know that that's going to continue to develop and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you want to chat about that, definitely hit me up because we know how to do all of that stuff. But I can see that the industry is really, really growing, and it's very exciting because podcasting is kick-ass. There's so many things that you can do with it. Anyway, moving on. So heavy use listeners, like where do they actually consume podcasts? Now, I found it really interesting that most people that listen to podcasts a lot listen to them at work. It kind of makes sense, I guess. Like if you're at a job where you don't have to be listening to stuff, then you can, as in like your job is to listen, then you can have podcasts on. You can be like listening to podcasts, doing your work, whatever. So that was actually quite a big number for me, that it was most do listen at work. And then the other big ones are in transit, and then at the gym, working out, walking, their after activities. Definitely not as many listen at home, but light users listen more at home. So the ones that don't listen every day, they might, be cooking or, hanging out the washing or whatever, and they're at home and they put something on there. So the interesting thing about this statistic, and to be of note, is that when you're planning your content, and especially like the length of your episodes, unless you're a huge name of a person like Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss or, people like that, keep your episodes short, because you can see they are listening at work. They might not have a whole bunch of hours. And if they have a short time frame, they have 20 minutes where they're working on a thing, or 30 minutes, they're going to select an episode that can match that time frame more often than not. So think about that when you're planning your content. Get it right as far as the time. Don't make them so long, because people are less likely to listen to it, or less likely to listen all the way to the end because they don't have the time. So think about that. And then the other thing I found interesting was the rise in smart speakers. So smart speakers haven't really taken off too much in Australia yet, but they're huge in the US. So that means that it's going to get bigger here in Australia as well. So the thing to note about that particular stat is to make sure that your podcast distribution includes channels like Amazon Music, because that is really easy for Amazon Alexa, and Amazon Music is very new, and that's what podcasts are on. So most distribution platforms like Buzzsprout, Blueberry, that sort of thing, there should be an area where you can select Amazon Music now. If you're in the US, you can be on Pandora, which is an easy one for smart speakers as well. Pandora, it's very hard to do for Australian podcasting market for whatever reason. It's hard to get on it. But yeah, anyway, there's a heap of different platforms, and smart speakers favor different platforms. So that's just to make sure that your distribution is right and that you're covering all your bases there. That's what I wanted to go through with you today, to basically say that the podcasting industry is growing, and it is phenomenal growth, like phenomenal. And if you are thinking about having a podcast or starting a podcast, now is the time. There's things that you need to have in place before you have a podcast, and I'll go through that in a different video. It's certainly part of my marketing plan to have a podcast, but not yet. And there is a reason why not yet for us. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that if you're on the fence about whether podcasting is worth it, it's worth it. The friggin' stats are there. It is so worth it. But you have to be consistent. It has to be at least one a week, moving to 2 if you can. You have to have an engaged audience. There's other things you need to have in place, but when you're ready, when your ducks are in a row, you need to have a podcast. Absolutely. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this little training, I guess, on the stats and what the stats actually mean. If you need any more help, or if you want to book in a consult, you can do that on the Bambi Media website. Over here. Okay, so in the services section, consulting services, we've got these things here. So we've got pre-existing podcast, full audit and consultation there. So that's if you have a podcast already and you want us, our team, to look at it in detail, go through your stats, your keywords, anything around the name, your podcast artwork, really give it a good look and go, this is what we recommend, this is what's lacking, and this is what will help you grow. So that's a full audit. How to get started consultation is for those that want to start a podcast, want help doing a podcast, want us to launch it, edit it, do all the things or some of the things. That's the first consult. And then the other one that's like a consult is the general podcasting one, where you don't want a full audit, but you want to have a chat with me for an hour to chat about your podcast, how it's going, what's not working, and what strategies you suggest that what strategies I suggest or we suggest would help you. Cool, that's it. And yeah, I hope you have a great day, and wait for the next little training that I'll do. Bye.